Are there marketing tasks that need to be done for your company, but you just don't have the time or enough people to help? Do you hate managing social media? Are you curious about starting a podcast? This episode is hosted by the founder of GetLeverage.com, Nick Sonnenberg. Leverage is a premier marketing platform that pairs you with a team of experts for any big or small project that you want to outsource. On this week's episode of Leverage Podcast, Nick dives into Brian's journey as a direct marketer, how the industry has changed over the years, and also the importance of physical and direct marketing. This October 16th through 18th, Nick is hosting the next Bullseye event with Lee Brower in Denver. This event is for truly successful entrepreneurs who are looking to take their businesses to the next level through identifying their direction and learning the tools to help them get there. There are limited seats left, so if you're interested, email nick@getleverage.com with workshop in the subject line for more details. Enjoy the episode, and don't forget to rate and subscribe on iTunes.
All right, so I'm here with my good friend, Brian Kurtz, and super excited to be speaking to you. I'm going to be speaking at your event in a few weeks at the Titans Mastermind. Brian and I have been friends. How long? 4 years now we've known each other? And wouldn't you say, you're very humble, so I'll brag for you, but you're one of the world's most famous direct response marketers out there, right? I
don't know what famous means in direct response marketing, but maybe I'm known in direct response marketing.
If someone was to Google direct response marketing, you probably come up in some of those Google searches. You're responsible for over, 1 billion physical pieces of newsletter sent? So
right. For direct mail and but then we did a lot of online too. So it's impressions, it probably is close to 2 billion.
Well, there you go. I was underestimating you. And then you're the author of the book Overdeliver, which I want to talk about. You run a mastermind called Titans. You were at Boardroom for a number of years. Just really, really impressive guy. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, I'm psyched. In fact, we were talking about you coming to the Titans mastermind, and I said, and you said, I do this podcast. I said, I know you had a podcast, and the people that you've had on are amazing. So I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, nothing compared. This is going to be the best podcast episode ever.
That's what I always said at the boardroom dinners. Like I'd say at the end of the dinner, I said, this is the best boardroom dinner ever because we'll never be in the same place at the same time again. And next time I'll say the same thing.
So I don't want to go into too much detail on bio. People can Google you and read bio. So I want to get into some more interesting stuff, but let's do a bit of bio stuff. How did you get into this industry in the first place? And you've been in this space for so long. How has it changed over the years? Because now is totally different than it was even 5 years ago.
Yeah. It's been a sea change, for the amount of time I've been in the business. But I started in 1981 at Boardroom, and you weren't born yet, I don't think, right?
Almost 84.
84, yeah. So in 1981, it was mostly direct mail. I was the list manager at Boardroom, and a lot of your listeners probably don't even know what that is. But I've actually, Boardroom was a newsletter, and you couldn't get to the audience because there wasn't any advertising. So the way you got to the list was to rent the lists, and I was in charge of that.
And how big are the lists? What's the size of that list that you're managing?
Well, when I got there, Boardroom was about 140,000. We had Bottom Line Personal, which was just starting out then in 1981, and it was about 100,000. And then we had about 100,000 book buyers. So it was, a file of about 400,000. And over time, the company morphed into a consumer publisher rather than a business publisher, because Bottom Line Personal became the key brand. And then the list just took off because we had a health newsletter, we had a Bottom Line Personal, we had a tax newsletter, we had a retirement newsletter. And so then we, ended up with, maybe 2 million names, 3 million names, and they were all subscribers, they were all book buyers. And I was selling the list for the first 10 years at Boardroom. And then I got involved in the marketing, and then I was there for 34 years. So I did a lot of different things at Boardroom. But eventually, Marty Edelston, who was the founder of the company, made me an equity partner. I started running all of the marketing. In the mid-2000s, we did some incredible stuff on TV with infomercials, and we did all kinds. We were, I always say I never met a medium I didn't like. That doesn't mean I would just test everything indiscriminately, but I would be very careful. And that's the beauty of direct marketing. What direct marketing means is that it's measurable, and you get an ROI on what you spend, and you don't just willy-nilly go into every single medium and just spend the money and then hope that something happens. You really have to do it intelligently. And we just, we're just great marketers, and we work with all the best copywriters in the world. We work with the best consultants in the world. And I was, along for that ride. That was just fantastic. I mean, to be able to, work directly with Gary Bencivenga and Gene Schwartz, and then in today's world, David Deutsch and Paris Lampropoulos, just a phenomenal ride through direct marketing. And so the change came, as the internet came about, there was that sea change of everything going from offline to online. But it's funny because going back, I left Boardroom in 2015. I've been out for almost 5 years. And even in the last 5 years, I've seen sea change. I've seen, how people are using online marketing differently each year as we move on. And I'm sure you see it too. And so the funny thing is, though, and I'll just leave you with this, and you can ask any questions you want about this, is that there's a lot of interest in direct mail. There's a lot of interest in TV and radio. There's a lot of interest in media that people thought was dead. And I think, for instance, direct mail being on the back end of a digital or an online business is an incredible way to enhance your business.
Things are cyclical, right? Stock market is cyclical. Real estate is cyclical. Is marketing cyclical in the sense you spent all these years doing physical mail? And I'm sure that there was a period of time where that just got probably crushed because of digital. But do you foresee, or is it already happening, that physical is coming back, or it's converting higher than it was a few years ago because now everyone's just kind of getting used to seeing these promo marketing emails, so they're kind of getting numb to that?
Well, put it this way. We're not going back to the direct mail in the 80s. That's never going to happen. What's happened is that, digital is here to stay, email is here to stay, Facebook is here to stay, depending on what the government does. But I think that what's happened is that direct mail has become a very interesting supplementary vehicle for a lot of online businesses. And that's the most interesting. I think that direct mail, it's not an or, it's an and. And so you've got an incredible opportunity if you have a digital business there's always going to be people on your list that are interested in having it both ways, online and offline, or physical and digital. There's going to be people that would rather have the physical, and there's going to be, many people that just prefer the digital. And so giving customers a choice, giving them a way to access different media, I think is just a function. So it is cyclical, but it's not coming back to what it was. That's the main thing. I don't think anyone would start a business today completely in direct mail or offline. That's not going to happen. But they're going to use direct mail because the mailboxes are less crowded. There's a lot more to be gained by doing physical product and in conjunction with digital, especially for your best customers. When you have a great customer on a digital product and, you can identify them, which you can as VIPs, you already have their physical address because they pay with a credit card. Now you can sell them something on the back end of that is, that might be physical, and you can charge a lot more for it, higher perceived value. It's basically, in my book, I talked about it O to O to O, online to offline to online. And I think you want to toggle between the two and meet the customer where they want to be met.
Yeah. At Leverage, we're thinking about a lot of strategies with this, like sending people sign up, sending them a copy of a book, sending them thank you cards, or maybe they do some action, right? Sending them a handwritten note. So it's not direct mail, it's not direct response marketing, but it
is in a way, because if you get a customer at Leverage and you've got, let's say, you can put a dollar figure on the lifetime value of that customer, or at least a 2 or 3 year value. You don't realize how much more you could spend to create a barrier to switch, create a pain of disconnect from you. That would be tremendous, and if it's a thank you note, if it's a book in a Federal Express envelope that you think is useful to a customer that's going to be worth $20,000, $30,000 to you over a couple of years, that's a drop in the bucket. And if it's not just throwing things at the people, but it doesn't necessarily, everything doesn't have to have a response. I always say that everything is not a revenue event, but everything is a relationship event. And when you have that much of I love being in the business I'm in now. I have these masterminds. It's being in the B2B business. It's so neat. I was selling $39 product for those billion pieces of mail. Now I'm selling, 20,000 and, 10,000 masterminds to a much smaller group. But it's incredible the leverage that you have when you have that much money coming in and they're satisfied and they renew for 2 or 3 years. Now you've got, a $30,000 nut or a $60,000 nut, and you can invest in your marketing when you have that kind of money. So it's taking the stuff that I have in my book about subscription marketing and moving it to this B2B marketplace. And it's just phenomenal. And I will say, there's a guy in my mastermind, Dave Coyle, who you might know from Network. Yeah. And Dave has a whole business called Biz Notes. And he bought a machine that handwrites notes. He doesn't even have to handwrite them, but they look handwritten. And he can make them, and he can do a lot of things with them. And I think he's done some work with you.
Yeah, and there's other companies like Felt and Bond and some others that do similar stuff. Before I forget, in your time in the 34 years at Boardroom, was there one particular moment that was like an aha moment where you tested a bunch of different things and something just clicked and worked way better, and you kind of realized that that was the new way of doing marketing and that changed everything?
I guess so. I mean, when we did our first magalogue and it became the control, magalogue's, a 32-page mailing piece that looks like a magazine, but it's a promotion. The first time we got a control with a magalogue was a big breakthrough. And then, not that we always did magalogues after that, but magalogues became a format that became one of our better formats.
What's a magalogue?
Magalogue is we'll say 8.5 by 11, looks like a magazine. It's actually got a price on it. It's got a headline on it. And in fact, in the case of Bottom Line Personal, the magalogue looked like the newsletter, but it was a promotion. And it was 16 pages or 20 pages or 24 pages or 32 pages of a promotion. And in the magalogue, you could, instead of just, selling the sizzle, you could give away some of the steak, which is not what I was taught in traditional direct marketing. Like we could actually, the 5 things that you need to know to spot a used car salesman that's going to rip you off. Here's 3 of them. The other 2 are on page whatever in the premium or something. So there was a lot of that, and that was an aha moment that we had a product that was not sold on newsstands. So we're selling a product that was sight unseen. You're going to pay $39 for. You've got to tell a significant story, and it made sense that a long form direct mail package would be able to do that. And then we went on to do bookalogues, which were kind of like, I'd say they were like Reader's Digest format. And we did them as much as 64 pages. And that was a big breakthrough. But no one thing like changed the business completely, but each thing incrementally did. There was in the mid 2000s, we got into TV with infomercials. It was an incredible success. We actually were told 1 out of 20 infomercials are going to work, and we got 4 out of our first 5 to work, so we got lucky. But then we were able to take the infomercial, which was for a book where the direct mail had diminished, and we made a whole new direct mail package based on the infomercial. And then we did space ads, and we also did display ads on the internet. And so this multi-channel program became our biggest success ever. But it wasn't just one thing. It was looking at one thing, building on it and building on it. And that was probably the most important thing.
So with subscription marketing, that's just marketing for a product or service that you're paying monthly subscription to?
Today on the internet, a lot of things are monthly subscriptions, monthly on your credit card.
Even leverage is a monthly subscription.
Right. You look at the charge every month and you decide whether you want to keep it or not. The business that I was in 1981 and in the 80s was a subscription business that basically sold a subscription to a newsletter, and you'd get 3 free issues or 6 free issues. You wouldn't send any money in. You would get the 3 issues, you'd get billed, and you hope that because you did credit screening on the front end, so that you get a lot of people to bad debt you, that you could get, in the case of our books, we used to get 60 and 70% pay up. And in the case of our newsletters, we would get, 30% pay up. And you say, 70% didn't pay. But you're fulfilling 3 issues or 6 issues of a newsletter. It's 30 cents each. It paid the bad debt of the bad issues get paid for the 30% pay up. So it was definitely a math problem. And
right. And you can get smart about it, looking at data and what cohorts of people are performing in different ways.
Yeah, we did incredible list selection. We did regression modeling. I did a podcast once. I was talking about how we did regression modeling, which is when you have we had a universe of, say, we'll say it's 4 million names. So we would then, for a mailing for one of our books, we would take like a 2 million segment of that still was way too wide. But we did a cross section of the 2 million to get 500 to 1,000 responses back. We'd lose money on that cross section. But because every name on the database, we had the characteristics of their buying behavior, we knew what people responded. And then we went out into the whole 2 million and found people that look like the people based on their buying behavior. So I'm telling this story to this podcast host, and he's into it. And I didn't expect to go down that road. And then he put the interview on Facebook, and somebody chimed in. He goes, "Wow, great interview with Brian Kurtz. Mind blown. I didn't know Facebook invented lookalike models. I thought Facebook invented lookalike models." And, this stuff was invented a long time ago. How it's applied today is incredible.
It's interesting because when I was a trader, a lot of the same math and concepts you apply to trading stocks or financial markets, you can do. It's a similar thinking process. How do you optimize the performance of a marketing campaign? I was doing logistic regressions and stuff like that for my thesis. And then, then compared it to things like classification trees where you can look at interactions with things. So it's not just correlation of people with this zip code are more likely to buy, but maybe people with that zip code and they're 40 to 50, maybe the interaction, maybe that zip code in itself is not statistically significant, or people between 40 to 50 are statistically significant. But when you combine both of those kind of parameters together, then you find something hidden, right?
Yeah, so I would add one other thing that what we found is that we were able to use some of that data like age and income and all of that. But that was secondary. The number one piece of data was the transaction data. What did they buy, when they bought it? And that goes back to RFM, which is a classic direct marketing measure of recency, frequency, and monetary. And believe it or not, people who haven't even studied it are doing it.
I don't know if you've noticed in your experience there and within your mastermind, but one thing, and I did this too at Leverage, it took me a while to realize this, but a lot of people I find focused, especially if you're running a subscription business and you're going for subscription marketing, it's sexy to be talking about how big your list is and Facebook ads. And the way I've started to look at it, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, but I've been thinking about kind of growth in 3 components. You have attraction, which is marketing, conversion, which is, converting these leads to sales, and then retention. And especially with subscription, retention is key. And a lot of people go straight to the marketing because that's kind of like showing off to each other how fast is your car kind of. And it's not that sexy to talk about retention or conversion, but I fell victim to this. And now we've course corrected the last little while, but we just started marketing and we had a bad product. So we had bad retention and we've had no focus on conversion. So we were spending all this money to get new leads and then it was just falling off. So we've been kind of going kind of completely reverse where we're 100% focused on retention. Only once retention is at a certain point, then we go and tap into our lead base and we focus on conversion. And then only once we're converting high enough, then we go back to marketing.
Yeah, I think it's not as simple, but you're on the right track because retention is everything. I talk about in the book, I have a whole chapter on continuity and lifetime value. And if you can get some number of what a new customer is worth to you and that they stick, and then you start looking at the product you're delivering and your returns go down and all the things on the back end, and you can deal with all that because you can survey people in customer service, you can take care of your customers, and customer service and fulfillment are marketing functions.
Well, and most people, you ask them what the customer lifetime value is or retention, they can't answer it. And it's like flying blind. People are just doing marketing and they have no idea if it's smart or not.
It's not the easiest thing to calculate, and there's no one way to do it, but there are ways to get a number, and you don't want to throw cash at something that you don't have the cash for.
The easiest way to estimate it is you take your average monthly recurring revenue divided by the monthly churn.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like a very, very close approximation.
Right. And then you just answered the other part, which you said before, which is you if you get the churn to go from, 6 months from 4 months, it's a game changer.
And then you can start getting even crazier and talk about retention curves and seeing kind of where people are dropping off.
I know about retention. You're the math guy. You know that stuff.
Yeah. Well, when I talk at your mastermind later this month, we'll talk about. I have a new concept, retention surfaces. I'll demo it.
Okay. So Paris Lampropoulos is speaking, and he's going to talk about. He's a copywriter who's always going for new packages and acquisition, and he's going to make the case why retention marketing is way more important than acquisition.
Oh. We'll get along. I mean, I know Paris. We met, and you're on the panel. We both met through Joe Polish at Genius Network, and you're on a panel with Paris and who else?
Richard Diggory, Clayton Makepeace. It's going to be John Carlton. It's going to be a great panel.
I'm really excited for that panel. That's like they got together basically the world's top copywriters and marketing minds on one stage. It's going to be kind of
really good. It's going to be.
Who do you look up to right now with marketing? I know that we both are close with Joe. We're both close with Jay Abraham.
The dead people I look up to are Gene Schwartz, Marty Edelston. They're like my two big Poombas. Ones you might not have heard of are Dick Benson and Gordon Grossman. Gordon Grossman's not dead. Dick Benson, but he's out of the loop. These guys were, when I was 20, I was gravitating to the 50 and 60-year-olds. So it's no wonder that they're dead because I'm 61. So as far as in today's world, there's like so many people that I follow because I'm still learning. I'm, in the online marketing world, I'm learning from people like Jeff Walker, Stu McLaren, and Ryan Levesque, and, just people who are doing different things in different categories that are just so beyond. I mean, on the one hand, they're beyond what I did, but they're also based on a lot of principles that I did back in the 80s and 90s. But now I can see it, how it's applied to the internet. And it's fantastic to just watch that. I mean, I really look up to Frank Kern. I look up to, if you go in my book, if you go to the people that I went and got blurbs from, but Richard Diggory, Greg Ranker, Perry Marshall, Mark Ford. These are the people that I just go to. People like Ryan Dice and Russell Brunson, Jason Fladlien. There's just like so many people that are so awesome when it comes to marketing, and you can get something from every one of them. So that was a bad question to ask me because I've got more. I don't even think I can,
And Dean Jackson, who we're both friends with.
Dean Jackson. I can't believe I forgot Dean.
And Jay Abraham.
Jay is a given. Jay wrote the forward to my book, and
he wrote the forward to my book too.
Oh, did he? Good.
So tell me about your book, Overdeliver.
So it's the subtitle is Build a Business for a Lifetime, Playing the Long Game in Direct Response Marketing. And what I did with the book is that the first 3 chapters were kind of a setting up why I might be qualified to talk about this topic. So the first chapter is called Overdeliver, what I mean by overdelivery, the dangers of overdelivery, but why overdelivery is a core concept in direct marketing. It's basically give the customer more than they ever would have wanted and treat the customer with respect and all of that. And also overdeliver in your personal life. You always want to give more than you get. You always want to give 100 0, and then whatever you get back is gravy. And so that's overdelivery. Then the second chapter was the importance of original source. And that was really, really important because original source, everything that's state-of-the-art in direct marketing today and online marketing today is sourced somewhere in the past. Now, it's not that I want to go back to the past. What I want to do is if you understand original source, then you can actually apply it much more deeply in the current marketing environment. Just like the example I gave you with regression modeling. If you understood regression modeling, you will understand lookalike models on Facebook at a different level. And so that's like one example, but there's tons of examples of that. And that's chapter 2. Chapter 3 is, I called it How Paying Postage Made Me a Better Marketer. And what that was about was that, all right, I don't want to sell you on direct mail. I'm not here to sell you on direct mail, but I want you to understand that back in the 80s, and I always say, you know, when I walked 12 miles uphill to school in the snow barefoot, I had to pay postage and printing. And so when you're paying postage and printing for every piece of mail that goes out, the discipline that it took before you decided that it was final, the level of perfection had to be so much more than it is today. But then I make the case that not necessarily. You know, every time you hit send on an email, you may not be losing a sale, but you may lose something in the future. Every time you contact an audience,
subscribes, you could be flagged by email servers.
Got to track all that.
Yeah.
And so, but in direct mail, you know right away whether you've done it or not. And so all of that. So those 3 chapters then set me up to then just talk in general about marketing and not direct mail or offline versus online. And then I did a chapter on the list, a chapter on offers, a chapter on creative. And then I went into multi-channel marketing and customer service and fulfillment, continuity and lifetime value, and then playing the long.
All these topics are such critical topics everyone needs to know about. I'm really excited to speak at your event because your book is Overdeliver and the title of my talk is Underdeliver. So it's gonna be really interesting. I'm just joking. It's not.
You underdeliver and make them yearn for more.
All right. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. Where can people go to find more about you?
The best way to find out more about me, get on my list, which is a great list. It's, every Sunday I blog, and I don't do affiliates, and it's really a good list to be on. But if you go to overdeliverbook.com, then there's a button there. You can buy the book wherever you want. You come back to that page, and you get to download 11 bonuses that are just killer. I mean, I've got a swipe file of stuff going back to 1900. I've got a course from Jay Abraham. I've got a swipe file from Dan Kennedy. I just got great stuff on there. I've got, full PDFs of books. And so that's the best way to get on my list. If you're too cheap and you don't want to spend, $17 for a book to get on my list and you want to learn more about me, you can go to briankurtz.me and get on my list. There's some free content there, and then you'll get a welcome series to my blog, and you'll be able to keep track of me if you want to. And if you don't want to, you can unsubscribe.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This was awesome.
Oh, thanks, Nick.
Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Leverage Podcast. Leverage is an on-demand outsourcing platform that helps small business owners and entrepreneurs scale their business. We have a team of experts that can help set up marketing and sales funnels, email marketing, podcasts, social media, paid media, and much more. Grow your business overnight with a team of experts you can trust to deliver. Accomplish more. Visit getleveraged.com.